Alright. Sucks is I've done an alternator on these things before and it sucks. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but these Hondas are notorious for blowing through. This battery is 600. They're notorious for blowing through alternators because of an oil leak, which I will check here in a second. Okay, so the battery's bad. That's true right off the bat. So the alternator's hidden down. Oh yeah, she's got a pretty large repair going to be going on here. So let me grab a screwdriver and I'll show you guys what usually happens. These engines have a problem with the spool valve leaking and dumping oil. I mean, I'm talking about it's directly into the alternator. Let's film as best I can. This leaking valve right there, right here, it's known as the spool valve or VVT something solenoid, but check that out. So it's nice and crusty, right? And then it's dropping right into that alternator. You can't see it, but that alternator is just covered in oil. I've done these before, so I know firsthand how bad this is. So essentially what I'm going to suggest to the customer is, got to pull this off. Got to pull all this off. We got to pull off this valve cover. We got to replace this gasket anyways for the valve cover. And then replace that spool valve. That's going to be unfortunately it. And then we can take care of the alternator and get them a battery. So if I come back on this video, that means we got the job. If not, then this job is done. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, yeah, these are so common with these things. I've probably done half a dozen. Oh, and it's the same with the Honda Accords too. The same exact issue. So I'll get back to you. Good news is, everybody, we got the job. So time to tear it all apart. Now, before I tear it all apart, just want to say this job kind of sucks. All right, so essentially everything's got to come off the top. I'm going to start by removing the negative, and I'm going to start working my way this way. Just from doing this so many times before, I already know what has to come off to get this off, and so are you. Pretty much all the same. The only difference is on this older model, you don't have to remove any of the air box over here. So, but we do got to get rid of this section right here because the throttle body is bolted in, and you can't lift it up with that. So we'll get all this tore down too. This part free. You're on my head, so sorry about how shaky it is. There's that. Is that a 10 or is that a 12? Like I said, most of these Hondas are all the same. Not gonna fit down there. And there's one underneath there also, so I gotta get that one. So anyways, we'll just go ahead and start here then. These are all 10 millimeters. Now, best thing to do is just to leave all your screws in there, and anywhere you can put the nuts back.
put those back on there. And now this next part, we can go ahead and take off these 10s. You only got to do the center. They're going to be a bunch of 10s and 12s. Save those 2 nuts because those are just your guiding bolts for this intake. We still got some other stuff to remove, like these hoses. My rant with all this is this lady took her vehicle to a shop and they knew all of this was wrong. She had a full tune-up done and it's misfiring right now on 4 and 6. So on top of everything, engine's got a pretty good little tick. So on top of everything else, bad battery, alternator, this valve, it's got a misfire and a tick, which we'll check out the lifters once we get everything off. It's definitely coming from the front. I can 100% vouch for that. So that's just funny that those are where your misfires are. Now we still gotta get those 2 bolts, but since they're fresh on my mind, these 2 10mm nuts have to come off because this bracket is connected to the engine and this intake. One down here. Okay. You just slide this back like so. Okay, that should clear everything. Okay. Let's get a short. All right, the shallow 12. Some ridiculously long bolts, but you're not gonna be able to see this one because I can't even see this one. Really long bolts. Now we'll just slide the throttle body. There you have it. Okay, so now we need to get this off. So this is the difficult part because there's really no room to stick your hand down there. Push that clip up, slide it off. There you go. And there you go. Got to remove this one too. All that has to be free. And we're gonna have to get down there and get these oxygen sensor wires unplugged too. But that's in good time. Pull these 2 off the spool valve. That's free. Like I said, let's get down there, and you're not gonna be able to see this, but I'll show you here in a second. All right, see, got that free. Now we can get that up and out of the way for right now. Because you need to remove these. 2 10mm bolts. Now again, anywhere you can, put them back in. Now sticking with this 10, we're gonna have to go remove these coil packs. Always inspect them, look for any kind of arcing. I do. Now we'll do the one. Here's just 2 on the bottom down there for 10mm bolts. Wow, I think this is the easiest one I've ever taken off. Oh, and that's a new valve cover gasket too. Okay, okay. Yeah. I wish she would have told me that before I ordered it. Maybe she just didn't know because this is a used vehicle. But yeah, no, yeah, that's a brand new gasket. Now those bolts are different sizes, so you want to make sure you leave it. All right. So, and it was done properly too. I like that. So essentially when you want to put these back on, you do want to put some gasket maker right here just to really amplify it, because these are major weak spots. And you know what? Someone did it too. Someone did a really good job. Huh. I just wonder why, yeah, like I said, maybe she just did. All right, I'm gonna get the spool valve off. Oh, man. It's just these 2 12mm right here. You can get rid of that dipstick too. Oh man. Alright, I gotta get a bigger breaker bar. There we go. Here we are, day 2. Wherever I left off is where I left off over here. But I got the valve cover off, everything. I'm getting ready for the spool valve. I'm just waiting on parts right now, so I'm just gonna tear it down for day 3. Day 3 is when the parts come in. So essentially, after getting a little more information, they did do the valve cover gasket, and they did spark plugs, and they did the valve adjustments. And it's still misfiring. So I'm not gonna mess with any of the valve adjustments because they already did it. They're the dealer. They should own up to it or own it, whatever happened or didn't happen. Who knows? So, but we're gonna leave that one alone. We're just gonna work on the alternator, and we're gonna need to remove, this. We're gonna remove this 10mm also. It's gonna give us a little extra wiggle room. Let's see if I can put it in right here. Yeah, there we go. hose for the power steering pump. Okay, there's that. So that's done. And this thing you just lift straight up on. It's pretty much, it's bone dry almost. So, you know, not a lot. The power steering pump's bad. It's leaking almost everywhere. So we'll just get this up and out of here. Kind of tricky to see, but there's a 10mm bolt right there. That holds all this wiring onto the top of that bracket. And then we'll come down here, and if you could see it, fine. If not, just believe me, there's one wiring harness. Okay, and the one thing I can't show you is follow this wire down, and it also plugs into the AC condenser. Sometimes it's easier to go through the bottom and just reach up. And continuing on with the 10s and 12s, this is a 12mm nut that holds the wiring onto the alternator. And with this one on top of the AC compressor off, you can just really fold those completely up and out of the way. And now it's time for the fun part, is taking out that alternator. So pretty impossible to film, but that right here is a 19mm, and you're gonna want to rotate it counterclockwise. And let me tell you, it took both hands and an 18-inch breaker bar. That belt's solid, so you don't want to take off too much. You just want to leave it where it only can, you know, you only have to put it back up over the alternator when you're all done. This bolt where the back end is right here, which is right underneath this bracket, that's a 12mm. That needs to come up and off of that bracket. I'm not going to film it because there's really no room, and it'll just bore you guys, but it's a 12mm. And the one right down there, be the bottom left of the alternator, is a 14mm. That's how you get that off. Oh, now here's the most difficult part. Probably because you're on my head, you're not going to be able to see anything, so I'm going to just wiggle it out like so. Yeah, like last time, I'm going to have to remove this one. This one's also a 12mm. I'm just going to remove this bracket. There you have it. That's the alternator. Look how oily it is. That was a pain, because like I said, it is just so soaked in oil. There was like a freaking slip and slide in there, but it's out. But we'll wait until day 3. Day 3, parts have arrived. All right, so here's a rebuild kit with all the gaskets and the plates and stuff like that. Now, since this is not throwing up any code, I'm not going to replace it. Do got the new alternator. It looks very beautiful. They say don't ever set it on the pulley, but don't listen to them. It's fine. All right. So yeah, I'm not going to replace this. Now, if it was throwing up any kind of codes, you want to replace this with an OEM one, no aftermarket junk. So, unfortunately, to get this one off, you got to remove all these 12mm and That way, when you pry this up with this tab, this can just slide on back. There's really no danger in doing of this. You'll be fine. Just make sure you have a torque wrench handy because you are going to have to retorque these bolts. Let's get started. Alright, so you want to make sure that's free, which it will be. Now, got to get to something. I already took out these 2 bolts, so we just need to get something to pry that up. Because when they did the valve cover gasket, it'd have been nice for them to do this, but I guess it was an extra fee, I found out, so they didn't. But, let me see if I can get it. As you can tell, it's leaking right down here too, so we're going to have to reseal. We're going to have to reseal this, this valve solenoid onto, so let's do it. And yeah, it's as easy as that. There we go, it's loose. Now we're just gonna gently lift up, now that we know that it's free. There we go, got it. Yeah, look at that, you could tell there's really no seal left down there, it's just dripping out. Let's get it all cleaned up. Now if you don't have a vise, you can just do this on the car, but let's just start replacing it. So 10 millimeters. All right, that metal plate was extremely hard to get off, but it's off now. So now we're down to the gasket. Oh yeah, look at that. Shoo. Done. Fun thing about this job is you're covered in oil, so now everything is extremely oily. Everything is very slippery. Okay, that's just oil. Okay. Let's go and put the filter back in. That's much nicer, by the way. It feels a lot better too. And they provide you with a new pin. Make sure that's in there. Okay. There. That's in there. That's nicely. Up here on this other end, we're going to do the same thing. There you have it, nice brand new gaskets. It looks really nice. So, see what I mean? Everything is it's just so slippery. So line that all up. That goes there. These two go here. So don't remove this one, I guess. So we'll just get it all put together. Got everything cleaned up. This is called Ultra Black gasket maker. It's oil resistant. Now they say Honda only, but you don't have to. This is the same exact stuff. So, yeah, I'm probably just gonna set it right here. Okay, now that that's done, we're gonna take this, slide it on in, and then you don't want to smear it. You just want to line it up as best you can, which that's pretty accurate. All right. So essentially, what I did was I just really just made it to where it's snug and it doesn't move or anything, because we gotta let this sit for 1 hour. Then we gotta come back and torque these bolts. So see you in an hour. So now, since it's been an hour and it started to tack up, which it is. It's 16 foot-pounds. So we gotta just go by and get these started. Start at the inside and work your way out. Do like a crisscross pattern. And in case you are wondering, these 10mm bolts are 6 foot-pounds. And I got the valve cover gasket put back on and the valve cover back on, and these are 8.8mm. Sorry, 8.8 foot-pounds. All right, so that's all the little tedious stuff. Like I said, everything's in there, looks really good. Now, here's for the fun part, getting this in. So we're gonna kind of, we know this side's gotta go up, and I really don't know how to get it up. So I already know, I tried to remove this on the newer models. This can be removed also, but this one's down in the wheel well, and it's really not worth doing all that work for. So I'll just see how we can maneuver this down there. All right, alternator's in, 14mm on the bottom, 12mm on the bracket that holds it to the block, 12mm on the alternator to the bracket. Got the belt. The belt diagram should be on your screen if I did this right, as usual. And I just did the AC, the wiring harness for the alternator, the 12mm nut onto the alternator, and this is gonna be one of the 12mm bolts. Start clipping this, fastening these back on. Snug it up. Same with this one. We can put this back. Real no special trick into getting that down there. Just drop it down and somehow get into this cavity. You can worry about rotating it. You have plenty of room once you get the alternator in this area. You have plenty of room to get everything, you know, situated and moved around. All right, so we'll do this. Now I'm not gonna get too crazy with that. I'll go ahead and do this part last. I'm gonna get this intake on right now because I gotta put that bracket underneath here. So here we go. Check out your gasket. Make sure it's intact, nice and clean, which it is. And this part's pretty easy, just line up the two studs. Okay, there's that one. There we go. Now, while that's going down, okay, there's that. Start off with these two nuts. 12mm. And let's start the charging. Okay, we got contact. All right, so those two are nuts. This one's bolt. Same one with this bottom one you can't see. Great. Okay, so that's all set up at least. Now let's get these torqued down. All right, so all these are gonna be 16 foot-pounds. Line up the two studs like you did before. Now all these are 9 foot-pounds. Now we're gonna put this bracket in. Have these little facing up like that. I'm gonna go put that other bolt in, and then we can lay this down and finish this up. The throttle body is also 16 foot-pounds. Come back here and slide those two on, get those nuts put back on. All right, reattach that hose. We're gonna reattach that hose and reattach that hose. Reconnect EGR valve, then come down here and connect your 2 oxygen sensors. Slide that into place, that's all it is. Got the hoses on and we'll fix that. Then add the 3 nuts that hold on the coils. All right, so fire it up. Now you're gonna hear some power steering noise because that thing is bad and empty. So make sure your alternator is alternating, which it is. You're at 14.5 volts. That's really good, even though the battery is bad. And now we just want to come down here and check for leaks. Let this run for a little bit. But it looks good. We'll know more when the engine gets hot, but as far as right now, not going to really worry about it, because I need to let this sit for, it says 24 hours, but I'll let it sit for like 5 or 6. It should be good. But anyways, yeah, that's how you do it. Man, big job, but really easy. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time.